You know that being bilingual is great for your brain, but you think you are too old to learn a new language, or it's too late to teach your child. Well, I'm here to tell you it's never too late. As a mum raising trilingual children, I have seen at first hand just how powerful multilingualism can be for the brain, and I want to share those insights with you, plus give you practical tips on how to tap into this superpower, no matter your age, your current ability, or your child's. For those of you new to my channel, welcome. I'm a UK-based professional translator, interpreter, and language teacher, and I'm a proud member of the Chartered Institute of Linguists. But most importantly, I'm a mum raising 2 trilingual children in English, Russian, and Chinese. So yes, I am absolutely fascinated by languages, and if you're watching this, I bet you are too. I've seen tons of videos about the bilingual brain on YouTube, and there's even a whole book dedicated to this subject. But what exactly is the bilingual brain? In this video, I'm going to decode that concept for you, breaking down the amazing cognitive benefits of being bilingual or multilingual. Most importantly, I'll be sharing practical, actionable tips on how you can help yourself or your child harness this brain power today. Without further ado, let's dive in. So before we get into the first way that being bilingual can transform your brain, let's imagine this. Imagine your brain as a traffic controller at a busy airport, managing flights from different directions. For a bilingual brain, that controller is working double time, directing 2 languages. This constant juggling makes your brain faster and better at handling multiple tasks at once. That's enhanced executive function in action, and that's a superpower you or your child can develop. Research by cognitive scientist Ellen Bilingualism shows that bilinguals consistently outperform monolinguals in tasks requiring cognitive flexibility and switching between rules. That's because bilingual brains are always filtering out one language while staying ready to switch to another one at a moment's notice. Every time your brain manages multiple languages, it's exercising those switching muscles, so to speak, making it more flexible and adaptable. That's why bilinguals tend to excel at multitasking and adjusting to sudden changes in the environment. And here's the best part. This mental workout doesn't just benefit children. Adults can also sharpen their executive function by learning and using a second or even third language. The brain's ability to adapt and grow remains strong throughout life due to something called neuroplasticity, so it's never too late to start developing this cognitive superpower. So, how can you foster this enhanced executive function through languages? If you're a parent not raising your child to be bilingual per se, but still want to help your child harness this power, you can definitely encourage your child to start learning a second language today. It's never too early or too late to start. This is not the same as raising a child to be bilingual. I'm talking about getting your child to learn a language, a second language, by taking classes or learning online, whatever. However, if you are interested in raising your child to be bilingual or multilingual and haven't started yet, I encourage you to start now. I've got tons of resources on this channel and on my website to help you do that. If you are already raising your child to be bilingual or multilingual, that's amazing. You are already helping your child tap into those cognitive benefits. But if your current focus is on speaking and listening only, I do encourage you to start a reading and writing routine, as research shows that being literate in multiple languages as opposed to just being orally fluent, although that's amazing too, of course, will further enhance these cognitive benefits. I've made a video where I walk you through my 15-minute reading and writing routine. Be sure to check it out, link down below. The same advice applies to adults who just want to boost the brain. Start learning a new language today. It's never too late to start. Throughout this video, I'll share tips on how to do that in practical terms. Now, let's move on to the second way being multilingual can transform your brain. Let me start with a question. Do you know a loved one who has suffered from dementia? It's heartbreaking, isn't it? Watching someone you care about slowly lose pieces of their memory, their personality. It's like the person you knew is fading away before your eyes. Now imagine if there was something that could delay that. something that could keep your brain healthier for longer. No side effects, guaranteed. It might even boost your cognitive ability. Sounds too good to be true, right? Now, what if I told you that this pill could cost absolutely nothing? Just learn a new language. Studies have shown that bilingualism can actually delay the onset of dementia and Alzheimer's disease by several years, up to 5 years, according to some studies. Scientists believe that this is because constantly managing 2 or more languages forces your brain to stay sharp, switching between vocabularies and grammatical rules. This kind of exercise helps build up what researchers call cognitive reserve, which acts as a protective factor against aging. Now, I know what you might be thinking. I'm too old to start learning a new language. But here's the good news, it's never too late. Whether you're 25 or 65, the brain's plasticity allows it to adapt and grow. Even learning a handful of new words or phrases can give your brain a little boost, or at least that will be a good start. And the truth is, it's never been easier to learn a new language for free. Back in the days, you would have to go to a language school or attend evening classes to learn a new language. If you are tech savvy, you might buy an audio course and play it on a DVD player. These days, your options are literally limitless, so there's simply no excuse. While I'm not the biggest fan of technology when it comes to language learning for children, I am, to some extent, a fan of language learning technology for adults. I highly recommend the platform italki. Not sponsored. If you want low-cost one-on-one online language lessons, I personally did this for a while with 2 different teachers when learning Russian. It's so much cheaper than getting a teacher in real life. And when it comes to conversation practice, frequency and quantity are the factors that will really make a difference. Duolingo is also a pretty good language learning app for beginners. Again, not sponsored. You can also listen to audiobooks in your target language to get exposure to it on the go. Go on YouTube. There are entire language learning courses you can access for free. Technology, despite all its drawbacks, has made it so easy to make language part of your everyday life. Anyone who has access to the internet can take advantage of it. Not keen on technology and don't want to spend cash? Go to your local library, check out the language learning books, and yes, DVDs. Again, you can do that for free. Now let's move on to the next point. Being bilingual is shown to improve your social and emotional intelligence. Before diving into the research, let me share with you some first-hand observations I've noticed with my own children who have been raised trilingual from birth. But before we get to that, let me first ask you, where in the world are you from? Comment below because I really want to know. And in the culture you come from, how do you address your siblings? If you are from a European or American background, you most likely call your siblings by their first names. But in Chinese, and I know in lots of other Asian cultures as well, you don't do that. In Mandarin, you call them big brother, big sister, big brother or little sister. So 哥哥姐姐弟弟妹妹. And with my kids, the interesting thing is that when they refer to each other while talking to me, they'll say something like 哥哥 or 妹妹 did this and that. That's usually something bad that the other person did. 哥哥 is the Mandarin word for big brother, 妹妹 for little sister. But when they talk to each other, they use their English first names. This behavior is more than just language switching. Switching is actually showing social and emotional intelligence. Why? Because they are adapting the language to fit the social context and the relationships involved. In Mandarin, it's a sign of respect and cultural understanding to address your siblings by their familial titles. But in English, using first names feels more natural in peer relationships. So by switching between the two, my kids are showing an awareness of how language shapes interactions and relationships differently across cultures. This ability to adapt and adjust based on the social setting is a key part of emotional intelligence. In fact, research shows that bilinguals tend to develop stronger social and emotional intelligence because they are constantly navigating different cultural norms and perspectives through language. By switching between languages, they also learn to switch between the social rules and emotional cues tied to those languages, which helps them become more empathetic and skilled at reading social situations. So, how can you nurture this social and emotional intelligence, whether for your child or for yourself? When interacting with your child in the target language, actively explore cultural nuances with them. In our case, for example, maybe I can ask my children, have you noticed that in Chinese you don't call your sister by her first name? Why do you think that is? Why do we have different words for your grandparents on your mummy's side versus daddy's side, whereas in English it's just grandmother and grandfather? This will naturally lead to a discussion about cultural norms, etc., and help them navigate these cultural differences. Another great way to build this skill is by exposing yourself or your child to different cultural experiences. This can be watching a movie in the target language to experience how people interact in that culture. It can be taking part in traditional celebrations. Watch my video about Chinese New Year celebrations we had earlier this year. Best of all, take your kids to a country where the target language is the majority language. In another video, I discussed the insights my father-in-law shared with me regarding how he has raised his youngest son to be bilingual. His youngest son, now a young adult, was born in Australia. My father-in-law said that one mistake he made in raising him to be bilingual was maybe a lack of emphasis on the cultural aspect. He said he wishes that they had watched more Russian movies together to help his son understand how things work in Russia, how people interact. It's a potent reminder of how language and culture intersect. Finally, I encourage you to practice empathy in language learning. When you learn a new language, you're not just memorizing words, you're stepping into someone else's shoes. For example, in Japanese, there are many ways to express I or you, depending on the speaker's relationship with the listener. I learned Japanese for a while when I was a teenager, and this fascinated me. So words like watashi, boku, ore all mean I, but they convey different levels of politeness, gender norms, and humility. In fact, I've read somewhere that in Japanese it's actually considered quite rude to use I in a sentence in most situations. By learning these nuances, you begin to understand how deeply language is tied to cultural values like respect, hierarchy, and group harmony. This helps you develop a greater sense of empathy and social intelligence as you are seeing the world from a different cultural perspective. Now, let's explore the fourth way being multilingual can transform your brain. Let's do a little quiz. Okay, what do you see here? You have 2 seconds to think about it. 1, 2, 3. You are a native English speaker. You will probably say, well, that's the letter C. Simple, right? But for my children who are learning to read and write in Chinese and Russian as well, this is not just a letter C. They would have to ask, are we reading in English, Russian, or Chinese right now? You see, being multilingual can increase creativity and divergent thinking. In Russian, this letter is pronounced Z, just like the English letter S. And in the Chinese pinyin system, C has a completely different sound, more like C. So when my kids are reading in Chinese, they have to remember that C isn't pronounced K as it would be in English, or S like in Russian, but as in pinyin. Now you might be wondering what this has to do with creativity and divergent thinking. Well, think about it. Multilingual people basically have to be flexible in their thinking. They can't just settle on one interpretation of the letter C and stick with it. Instead, they are constantly making new connections, switching between perspectives, and approaching the same symbol from multiple angles. This kind of mental flexibility is what we call divergent thinking. It's the ability to think in more than one way, which is a key part of creativity. Research shows that bilinguals are often better at tasks that require creative thinking because they are used to switching between languages, rules, and meanings. It's like training your brain to see the world from different lenses. This constant back and forth strengthens the brain's ability to come up with new ideas, solutions, and connections that monolinguals might not see as easily. So, how can you foster this creativity and divergent thinking in your own life and in your child's life? One fun way is to approach questions or problems from different angles, using the different languages your child speaks or that you speak. Let me give you an example from our own family. One evening, we were talking about guinea pigs. Yes, my daughter is obsessed with guinea pigs and, well, all rodents. And we started discussing why guinea pigs are called guinea pigs in Russia, Moskvaya svinka in Russian, which means sea pigs, because they were brought over the oceans, and 豚鼠 in Chinese, which translates to pig rodent, since they are classified as rodents in China. This is a perfect example of how a problem, in this case naming an animal, can be approached from 3 different angles depending on the language and cultural perspective. In each language, the name reflects a different understanding of the animal, whether it's based on where it came from, its physical features, or how it's classified. By exploring these different angles, my kids are not just learning new vocabulary, they're training their brains to think more creatively. They have to consider multiple possibilities, compare perspectives, and come up with new connections. So in the same way, when you or your child faces a problem, encourage them or yourself to switch languages, to approach the problem with fresh eyes. The language you use can influence the way you understand and solve an issue, sparking new ideas and fostering creativity. It might even help you get unstuck. So think through a situation in a second language. It can open up new perspectives you had not previously considered. Let's move on to the 5th way that being multilingual can transform your brain. We all know that physical exercise is great for our body, right? Now imagine your brain is like a muscle. The more you challenge it, the stronger and more resilient it becomes. Managing multiple languages is like combining strength training and endurance exercises for your brain. Every time you switch between languages, remember vocabulary or adjust the different grammar rules, your brain is essentially lifting mental weights. And just like running a marathon, maintaining proficiency in more than one language requires sustained focus and mental stamina. This constant practice builds both cognitive strength and endurance. Over time, this extra training makes your brain more adaptable and resilient, allowing it to bounce back faster when faced with challenges like injury or cognitive decline. Studies have shown that bilinguals develop stronger cognitive resilience. This means that if they experience a brain injury or cognitive decline later in life, the brains are better equipped to recover and reorganize themselves. It's like the brain has been trained to handle complexity, so it's more adaptable when things go wrong. So as you can see, this relates closely to the previous point I made about dementia and Alzheimer's disease, right? So this cognitive reserve built up by managing multiple languages offers a kind of protective shield. How can you apply this to your life or your child's life? Think of it like muscle training, right? Just as you wouldn't expect to build strength with one trip to the gym, building cognitive resilience requires regular and consistent practice. Encourage your child to use each language in natural settings like reading books, listening to music, or speaking with family members in their respective languages every day. For yourself, you can take small, consistent steps by practicing new words, phrases, or even using language learning apps regularly. And just like physical exercise, consistency is key. Regular daily exercise in manageable doses is typically far more beneficial than doing one epic Ironman triathlon one weekend of the year and just sitting on your couch for the remaining 364 days, right? The same principle applies to your brain. Instead of cramming all your language learning into one intense session, it's more effective to exercise your brain regularly by engaging with your languages every day. This could be something as simple as reading a short article, listening to a podcast, watching a YouTube video, or having a brief conversation in your target language. These small, consistent mental workouts help build cognitive strength and flexibility over time. The more often you challenge your brain in this way, the better equipped it becomes to retain and process information, and the more resilient it will be in the long term. Remember, consistency beats intensity when it comes to building mental endurance and keeping your brain sharp. That's why I am a big proponent of a 15-minute reading and writing routine every day, whether it's for yourself or your child. So, those are the 5 powerful ways being bilingual or multilingual can transform your brain. It can enhance your executive function, delay cognitive decline, boost social and emotional intelligence, spark creativity and divergent thinking, and build cognitive resilience. Whether you're raising multilingual children or learning a new language yourself, these benefits are within reach for everybody, no matter your age or ability. If you found this video interesting, I've got another video you will love. I dive deeper into the brain benefits of bilingualism as revealed by a fascinating BBC documentary. You can check out that video here and see even more reasons why bilingualism is a true superpower. So hit that link and I'll see you in the next one.